Hello, this is Professor Angelia with part 8 of Works of Heart's Child Development in Psychology class. Last time we left off on development of locomotor skills. This time we pick up on growth in early childhood, the 50th percentile. Throughout the preschool stage, the average boy is a little taller than the average girl. So at age 3, this is height in centimeters. Boys 94.9 and girls 94.1. At age 4, boys are 102.9 and girls are 101.6. At age 5, boys are 109.9 and girls are 108.4. And at age 6, boys are 116.1 and 114.6. That's, excuse me. If you want to convert that to inches, multiply it by 0.39, because we do inches here in America. And the source for that is Hamill, 1977. Now we all know that later on, once you get to the preteen years, the girls pass the boys up and get to be taller and heavier. And then they catch us later on in the teen years. Weight in early childhood. Preschool boys are somewhat heavier than preschool girls. Weight in kilograms again. At age 3, most boys are 14.62 while girls are 14.10. At age 4, boys are 16.69, girls are 15.96. At age 5, boys are 18.67, girls are 17.66. At age 6, boys are 20.69 and girls are 19.52. And the simple reason that boys are heavier is because they have more muscle mass. There are girls, excuse me, that have a large muscle mass, but in general, boys have more muscle mass because they have less estrogen. And estrogen, unfortunately for us females, is the fat-producing hormone. Methods of discipline favored by parents and the type of discipline. And then I'm going to go by year, 1962 to here lately. Timeouts in 1962, only 20% of parents use that. This past decade, 38% of parents use that. And I think if you have taken any of my parenting skills programs, or if you watch Super Nanny, you'll see that that is an effective thing if you're constant, if you stick to it. Lecture them in a nice way. In 1962, 23% did that. In this past decade, only 24%. So that hasn't changed any. Spanking. In 1962, 59% of parents did that. And that's a shame. And I think we've all learned now that that's really not the answer. And if you haven't learned that, then I recommend taking a parenting class. And this last decade, only 19% still spanked. Now here in the Southeast, unfortunately, that's still a big thing. There's a book that I hand out by Jordan Rieck that's talked about the truth about spanking. And paddling started in the slave trade days as a way to beat the slave with a paddle, so that the bruises didn't show, so that you could still sell the slave without bruises on it. So anyone who's still spanking your child, that's where that came from. Take away television privileges. In 62, only 38%. There were still a lot of people that didn't have TV in 62. And in 92, only 15%. And I think it should be opposite of that, because that's something that we used, especially if someone was not doing what we were telling them, in lieu of sitting in the front of the TV and say, I'll do that in a minute. TV went off. No, you'll do it now. It wasn't an option. Scold them, not in a nice way. In 62, 17%. And in 92 is 15%. Ground them. In 62, it was 5%. 92 was 14%. So more children were getting grounded, and that's because they have more freedom now, which is not always a good thing. Take away their allowance, only 62 in 1964%, and then this last decade only 2%, and that has to do a lot with the fact that allowances are not given as much nowadays because parents are poorer and they can't afford to do it. But that's a shame, because we had on our bulletin board, we had a chore chart, and we had tallies, which were a negative thing, and we had money amounts, which were a positive thing. If you did your chore, you got this. If you didn't do your chore, you got the tally. And it balanced out. It was like a balance sheet, on how much you got paid by the end of the week. But eventually that was done away with, because the children's father decided he couldn't afford, to give them an allowance. But it is a positive tool, and it will teach your children about life. Because, if you're not good at your job and don't do your job, you're going to get fired. You're not going to get paid. And if you're good at your job and you do your job, you're going to get paid. So it's a good tool to teach your children responsibility, that work's going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. I don't care if you live by yourself or whatever, you're still going to have to do some kind of housework. That's a fact, unless you want to be overrun with roaches and rats. Um, you know, Parents could cite more than one method. So in this study, the parents could cite more than one method. So, and that's from Bruskin and Goldring Research. The developmental niche. Culture has a lot to do with how you develop. The culture you grow up in is going to influence your mindset. And then behavior and development. And these are the things that feed, it comes out from the culture. The physical and social setting, where you live, what the social setting is, where you live. Um, Customs of child rearing and child care. Like I said, if you grew up in a spanking family, then more likely you spanked. But if you grew up in a family where discipline was teaching, that's something my grandma Yates Lieber was really good at. She could make you cry and never have to raise her voice because she would just tell you what you did was wrong. And it's wrong because of whatever the reason was. And I'm disappointed that you did it. And you would just cry because she was the sweetest little woman. And the fact that she was disappointed that you did this bad thing would make you cry worse than any spanking ever would. Because any physical punishment, you're going to resent, you're going to learn to be fearful or angry, you know. Whereas if you're using discipline as a tool to teach, and give you a lecture like that, and then put you in timeout, I mean, that's going to make a bigger impact, than beating anybody's butt. It really is. Underlying values and attitudes, a caretaker psychology, how children or other people, elders, are taken care of, what that's like. Socio-political context, and boy, we got a lot of that going on in the United States today. But it's a fact that if your predecessors were Democrat, you're most likely to be one. If your predecessors were Republican, you're most likely to be one, or Tories, Whigs, whatever, wherever you are in the world and whatever's going on. And this all affects your behavior and development. And that's based on Super in Harkness's study, and is from Proctor in Harvard. Children potty train later, train faster. If they tell you that they're ready sooner, go ahead. But the best age to start is at age 2. Do not punish the child for accidents. We all potty train differently. Some by age 2, some by age 4. Because if you make the potty an issue, they're not going to want to do it. They're going to be scared of it. Like I said, my oldest one, he was still having some accidents at age 4. He wasn't quite ready, but he got ready, thank goodness. My middle one, he decided he didn't want that dirty diaper on him. So when he started taking that diaper off and throwing it out of his baby bed in the mornings, I said, would you like to try going on the little potty? And he's like, yeah. And so that kid potty trained himself. And then the third one, he wasn't quite as fast, as the middle one, and he wasn't quite as slow, as the oldest one. He was somewhere in the middle. So all of them potty train differently. But if you force the potty training, if it becomes an issue, they're going to be least likely to do it because they're going to be fearful and they're going to associate the potty with a negative experience. So wait till they, start, taking off their diaper because they don't want the mess on, or wait till they ask, can I use the potty? And then it'll be so much easier for you. You won't have the struggle that some parents have because they're trying to push the potty training on them too fast. Linguistic advancements during the preschool stage. During the preschool stage, the child shows great progress in language acquisition. And then if you have a stroke, you can lose that. And we're going to go by age, number of words used, number of words per sentence, and new developments. So at age 3, about 900 words, and 3 to 4 words per sentence. Sentences show subject and verb, but are simple. Uses present tense. Uses words such as when, time, today. Begins to use plurals and some prepositions. Uses commands. At age 3.5, about 1,200 words and 4 to 5 words per sentence. Rate of speech increases. Ask permission, may I? Uses couldn't and if as conjunctions. At age 4, about 1,500 words and 5 to 5.5 words per sentence. Demands reasons why and how. And this is an important thing. Because I said so is not going to cut it, especially if you have an intelligent child. You really need to give them reasons how and why, because then they understand how the world works. I know that takes time to say those things, but you're never that busy. You're never that busy that you can't pause and explain things to your child because they need to know and they want to know. And the more you deal with them and explain things to them, the more they know you care about them, and the more they're going to take what you say to heart rather than just be like, okay, whatever. Rhymes. Questions a great deal. Uses words such as even, almost, like, and but. Understands most questions. Has difficulty with how and why. So don't expect them to be, able to answer long questions that you have of them. They're going to be like, what? At age 4.5, about 1,800 words. About 5.5 to 6 words per sentence. Does not command or use demands often. Completes most sentences. At age 5, 2,200 words. About 6 words per sentence. Asks meanings of a particular word. Asks function of items and how they work. Uses many types of clauses. Discusses feelings. Understands before and after. And the key there is you have to be consistent. Because if you lie to your kids, what you're teaching them is that you're not trustworthy, and they can't count on you to keep your word. At age 5.5, about 2,300 words, 6.5 words per sentence. Makes fewer grammatical errors. Sentences become more sophisticated. I'll never forget my oldest son when he was 4. He picked up language really fast. And he was 3 years old. And a lady in Walmart, he was telling us about some kind of truck he was looking at. Excuse me. And she said, how old is he? And I said, he's 3. And she said, wow, he talks good for a 3-year-old. And he looked right at her and said, yes, I speak very well. At age 6, they have about 2,500 words. about 7 words per sentence. Uses all parts of speech to some extent. Can define by function. That's adapted from Kaplan, 1991, and Owens, 1988, Weiss and Lillywhite, 1976. Cognitively stimulating home environment variables. Instruments and items. Home observation for the measurement of your environment. And this is if you have a social worker coming into your home. Family has a television, and it is used judiciously, not left on continuously. Family encourages child to develop or sustain hobbies. Child is regularly included in family's recreational hobby. Family provides lessons or organizational membership to support child's talents. Child has ready access to at least 2 pieces of playground equipment in immediate vicinity. Child has ready access to a library card. And family arranges for child to go to library once a month. Family member has taken child or arranged for child to go to a scientific, historical, or art museum within the past year. Family member has taken child or arranged for child to take a trip on a plane, train, or bus within the past year. Or in a car, just that you took the kids somewhere. Home environment survey. Does your child have access to a real musical instrument? Does your child have his or her own subscription to a magazine or book club? And that's if the children want this thing. Not all children want these things. Is your child receiving private lessons? And a lot of people can't afford that, but they do have lessons at schools. Most schools. A lot of schools have done away with that. Ours went away with that. Now they brought them back. So hopefully that'll stay a thing in schools. How many different magazines or journals does your family receive at home each month? Is there a personal computer at home that the child has experience working with? How much education do you expect your child to achieve? Family environment scale. We often talk about political and social problems. We rarely go to lectures, plays, or concerts. Learning about new and different things is very important to our family. We are not that interested in cultural activities. We rarely have intellectual discussions. Someone in our family plays a musical instrument. Family members often go to the library. Watching TV is more important than reading in our family. Family members really like music, art, and literature. And as you see, some of these are positives and some of these are negatives. So they're trying to get at the truth, not what you think they're asking. The relationship between age of arrival in the United States and total score correct on the test of English grammar. So if you're a native person arriving under the age of 3, you would probably score about a 270, on a grammar test of, that many, words. If you arrived in America or any other country that you don't speak the language, age 3 to 7, you would actually go up a little bit because you have heard that and learned more. Age 9 to 10, it drops to about 255 words. And 11 to 15 years old, it drops to about 235. And age 17 to 39, it drops only to about 210. So as you see, the younger you are when you come into the country, the more you can learn the language. So a lot of people, you speak the language. Well, you go learn a foreign language, see how easy that is for you, and see if that's something you speak casually around your own family and friends on a regular basis. Because I know I've been studying Spanish for several years now. Yeah. Sometimes that old saying about you can't teach old dog new tricks is a little bit true. It's definitely easier when you're younger to learn a language than it is when you're older. Types of play. Unoccupied play. Hug stuffed animal. Basically sensory motor. Explores properties or objects. And that's in the first year. Solitary play. Playing by oneself. That's continuing throughout. Onlooker play. Watches others. May follow other children around. Excuse me. And cannot participate. And that's later in the first year and continuing through the second year. Parallel play. Plays in proximity to other children, but not with other children. And that's 2-year-olds and some 3-year-olds. Remember, everybody develops in a different way. Dramatic play or pretend play. Plays various roles. Use of imagination. Beginning second year, increases through early childhood. Associative play. Plays with other children but cannot sustain interactions. And that's third and fourth year. Cooperative play. Can sustain interactions, takes roles, and plays them more easily. And that's in the 5th or 6th year. The goals of misbehavior. And oh yes, there is a goal to misbehavior. The child's faulty belief. We're going to talk about the child's goal. The parent's feeling and reaction. The child's response to the parent's attempts at correction. And the alternatives for parents. The child's faulty belief is, I belong only when I'm being noticed. The child's goal is attention. The parent's feeling or reaction may be feeling annoyed, tendency to remind and coax. The child's response temporarily stops the misbehavior, later resumes the same behavior, or disturbs in another way. Alternative, ignore the behavior when possible. And it's not always possible. I saw some people in a restaurant with these 4 kids. It was not possible for her to ignore the behavior. They were jumping up on the tables and throwing stuff back and forth. It was not good. Give attention for positive behavior when child is not making a bid for it. The child's faulty belief, I belong only if I am in control or am boss. Or when I am proving no one can boss me. And the child's goal is power. And the parent's feeling angry, provoked, as if one's authority is threatened. And I'm going to tell you this, parents. If you're feeling your authority is threatened by your child, then you are not in control. Your child is in control. I never had that problem. I knew I was the boss. I was the mom. What I said. I don't care if you yell at me, fuss at me, or whatever. I'm in charge. And if you don't feel that way, if you feel like your child is threatening your, dominance or whatever you want to call it, you have a problem and you need to go talk to somebody about that. The reaction or tendency to fight or flight or give in. The child's response to this is active or passive-aggressive behavior is intensified. Or child submits with defiant compliance. Because you're butting heads. You're in a war against each other for who's in charge. There needs to be no doubt as to who's in charge. And all that requires is firm, consistent discipline. You don't have to beat the kid. Firm, consistent discipline. And alternatives for parents. Withdraw from the conflict. Say, I'm not arguing with you. Walk away. Help child see how to use power constructively by appealing for child's help and enlisting cooperation. Just do that. Say, this is not going to happen. No matter how much you fuss, cry, or throw a fit, you can't have that or you can't do that. What is another way we can work this out? Because it's not going to happen. Realize that fighting or giving in only increases the child's desire for power. Somebody wants the power over their life, and that goes for little kids too. But because little kids don't know what's good for them or best for them yet. They need our guidance. Child's faulty belief. I belong only by hurting others as I feel hurt. I cannot be loved. The child's goal is revenge. The parent's feeling and reaction. Feeling deeply hurt. The reaction, tendency to retaliate or get even with the child. And I see this all the time. It's ridiculous, especially among males. No offense, you males, but that's that whole testosterone thing again. You don't have to prove to your child you're the boss. You are the boss. And you don't have to throw a fit about it. Seeks further revenge by intensifying misbehavior or choosing another weapon. And the alternatives for the parent is avoid feeling hurt. Facts of life. If you're so worried about your kid loving you that you're going to let them run you, then you also have some problems and you probably need to go see somebody about that. Avoid punishment and retaliation. It's not going to get you anywhere. Build trusting relationships. That's what you need. Because the relationship with you is going to affect all their future relationships. Say what you mean what you say. Be consistent, be truthful with them. That's how good parents do it. Convince the child that he or she is loved. I have a son that has low self-esteem, and it's almost a daily thing, where he'll be like, nobody likes me, you don't like me, do you? And it's like every day we have to go through this, and he's in his 20s, but he has some developmental problems, so what can you do? But you need to love your child. You need to show them that they're loved and their life will be so much better. The child's faulty belief. I belong only by convincing others not to expect anything from me. I am unable. I am helpless. And there are people who go take this into adulthood. I had a client once who was an older woman in her middle-age years and still had this going on. And I tried to teach her some things, and she was not ready to listen. But the child's goal is to display inadequacy. It's dependency. They don't want to be an adult. They want to be taken care of. The parent's reaction feeling is despair, hopelessness. I give up. The reaction is a tendency to agree with the child that nothing can be done. You're a hopeless case. Nothing can be done. And, that just further makes the child believe that must be true because they're agreeing with me. So I'm useless. I'm worthless. The child's response is passively responds or fails to respond to whatever is done and shows no improvement. And this is why I cut this person off. I told them what they needed and what they needed to do, and then I cut them off. Because if I didn't do that, they would be continuously coming back to me, saying, oh, I can't. And it was clear that she had no desire to. So you cannot do that. They have to do the work they need to do themselves. You cannot provide a life for another person, especially, we're talking about children here. By the time you get to be an adult, you're supposed to be providing your own life. If you're a middle-aged person, you still can't do that for yourself. You need some help. And alternatives for parents is stop all criticism. Encourage any positive attempt, no matter how small. Focus on the child's assets, because everybody's good at something. And this is one of the things I try to do to this person. Said, oh, well, you're good at this. Keep doing this. Keep doing this. Keep getting out there. Keep approaching, different places. And, someone will accept you and recognize you. Above all, don't be hooked into pity and don't give up. Because these are kind of people you feel so sorry for her. But that's not helping them. that's not helping them at all. That's enabling them to feel like I'm a waste. So, that's not helping them. And if you teach your children, and like they said, stop all criticism and, you know, encourage anything they do that's positive. And you see this in adopted children sometimes. They might not have came from the best background, so they need to not be criticized. They need to be built up. No tearing them down. They've already been tore down enough. You need to build them up. And anything they're good at. Reading, writing, art, music, crafts, anything they're good at, sports. Praise them for that, and you'll teach them to have some self-esteem and that they are capable. They're not a useless, hopeless mess. They are capable of having a life. To determine a child's goal, you must check your feelings and the child's response to your attempts to correct him or her. Goal identification is simple. And, like I said, we'll go with the child's goals. Attention getting. They don't feel like they're getting enough attention, so they're doing these behaviors to get your attention. Power. They don't feel very powerful in their life, so they're trying to assert their power in their life. And for you to try to assert your power right back is just going to be a war, and that gets you nowhere. You need to explain to them, I'm the mom. This is going to happen because I want this to happen, because we're in this situation where this needs to happen, and I'm not going to give on this. You're just going to have to deal with it. Yeah, see? Didn't have to yell, didn't have to cuss, didn't have to beat anybody. But my point got across. Revenge. You might have done something earlier that ticked them off, and so they're going to get revenge on you. And this is a hard one for parents, because they feel like the kid is disrespecting them, retaliating, and it's a fact of life. People don't like, grown-ups don't like when you do something to them that they think is a slight or something. So kids, of course, don't like it. But again, you have to have consistent discipline in a timely manner. You can stop what you're doing right then, unless you're performing open heart surgery. You can stop what you're doing right then. Of course, hopefully your child's not in the room when you're doing that. But you can stop what you're doing right then and deal with the situation, because putting it off isn't going to make it any better. And displaying inadequacy. And these are the 4 main goals of misbehavior. So, I can't do it, I won't do it. It's that they don't want to do it, or their self-esteem is so low, they don't feel really honestly like they can do it. So the way you need to deal with that, build up their self-esteem, and don't buy into the pity party. So that is all for today. I hope this was educational or informational, or at least just entertaining to you. And if you'll like and subscribe to continue taking the whole class, like I said, and if you have a stroke, you lose your language abilities. But I'll leave the link so that you can help me to continue to present these programs for as long as I can. So that's it for now. Until next time.